Alright, so Bitcoin has just printed a 22% godlike candlestick on the weekly time frame. I'm going to be very straight with you. I never expected this to happen, at least not now. Reason being that such a move has never happened so early in the entire history of Bitcoin cycles. Even though I had been telling members of my private group to buy things like Ethereum and XRP on spot positions, I still expected prices to go a little bit lower, extending to at least Q4 of 2026. But right now, for the first time in the history of Bitcoin, we are seeing a very massive move before the official end of the bear market. So I think the ultimate question that everybody wants answered right now is this the end of the bear market? In this video, I'm going to do a full breakdown analysis. We are going to look at every single thing to be able to know whether or not this is the time to start selling all your properties and going to start buying Bitcoin and crypto, generally speaking. I'm excited about this video, but at the same time, I'm also kind of sad because I wasn't able to predict this move. Anyway, let us get into the charts and let us look into it deeply. Alright, so this is Bitcoin on the 1 week time frame. Look at what just happened. Just look at how massive this candlestick is. This is over, I think, a 22% move. This is a 23% move, and it's still going. We are almost at the end of the week. It's insane, to be very honest. And you know the funny thing, the only times that moves like this happen is, look at this here. This was the end of the previous bear market. We had a move like this. Look at this, a 22% move, right? And where else can we find a move like that again? Okay, something like this as well, right? Usually a move like this only happens at the end of the bear market. This was a 30% move, one candlestick. So as you can see, in the last 3 times that this has happened at the end of a bear market, it literally marks the bottom of the market. But you see, the issue is that this is happening way too early. It's not happening the way it usually happens in the cycle. Some people are saying it's the Donald Trump effect, and truthfully, I might agree with this. Reason being that in the last cycle, if you remember correctly, in the last cycle we actually reached the new all-time highs right before schedule, so to speak. And the exact same thing is happening right now. We may have actually bottomed out, and it's happening right before schedule, over 2 months before schedule. But obviously we can't just say that. Let us look at the actual facts. First of all, I'm going to be starting this analysis on the 1 month time frame. So you can see very clearly that I had drawn out this particular analysis, and what this analysis is showing is the different patterns in which the market usually finds a bottom. Basically, you can see here we usually have a falling wedge. This is what a falling wedge looks like. The market trends downwards for a long period of time and then finally gets a breakout. That's exactly what happened in here in 2015, and the exact same thing happened here in 2019. You can see falling wedge, same pattern, and we had a breakout in 2021 cycle. In 2022, where we found the bottom, you can see here the exact same thing, 1 2 3 times repeated in the past. So basically we have the exact same thing forming here. However, this was supposed to extend downwards for a little bit more up until this base here, right? Just like we have seen in the previous cycles that I've just shown you. But as you can see, that this right here, this breakout is happening way too early. The breakout should be happening here. As a matter of fact, in terms of when the market should actually bottom, we still have about a couple, like September and October. We have like 2 months before the market officially bottoms out. And just like it has done in the previous cycles, if you've not seen this analysis before, then you probably need to check out the video. If you're in my private group anyway, you're going to see them. It's pinned up in the messages. However, what we can see currently happening right now, it's a move that is happening out of schedule, right? It's very, very important to, we can't ignore what is happening right now. You actually cannot ignore it because of the simple fact that it has happened. Basically, such a candlestick cannot be ignored. It's such a very, very crazy move. And if we look at things like this, the MACD, for instance, you can see very clearly that lots of sellers have been taken out of the markets with this kind of move like this, and the selling pressure is literally reducing. Now, if we had not had a move like this, you can see how massive this move is. It literally took out all of the bearish price action that we had from the month of May, even the month of June even. And you can see where this happened in the last cycle. Look at this here. Once this candlestick closed above it, you know, it was practically over. Same thing here as well. You can see it's happening right now. If we go to the previous cycles, do we have any examples there to show? Not really. But yeah, this such a move is very, very important to note. If you go down to the 1 week time frame and you notice what has happened, let's take away all of these drawings. You can see very clearly that prices has actually bounced off at this on this 200-day moving average on the weekly time frame anyway, and it's actually in alignment with what has always happened in the past, but not what happened in the last cycle though. Look at the last cycle was the only different one, but if you look at the past year, we had a solid bounce here. This was the bear market in the end of the bear market 2 cycles ago. Same thing here. This was the end of the bear market 3 cycles ago. This was the only one that was different. So prices, so this being the bottom of the market is not actually too far-fetched, if I'm being honest. However, something else to pay attention to is the fact of what is currently on this level here, which is a major determinant of the entire structure. You see, we've had a downtrend, right? We've had higher lows and higher highs. We've had lower lows and lower highs. We had a higher, we had a low, we had a lower high, we had a lower low, we had a lower high, lower low, and right now in this region here will determine whether or not, you know, we are going to have a higher high, whether the structure that we've been building since October of last year is finally going to change. Right off the top of my head, I would say it's probably going to break. I think there's still going to be a good entry, just in case you are thinking to FOMO right now. Let me show you an example. So if you go all the way back here, to the previous bear market, you can see how prices went up and then came down, grabbed this entry here and took off. If we go to the previous one, although we didn't get a move back right away, but you know, it took a long time before we actually came back down there. This took way too long, so waiting for that long may not be the best idea. And even in this area here, we had the bottom, you know, span out for a long period of time. But after seeing a move like this though, especially with how the formation looks, I would presume that what we are likely going to form out of this is an inverse head and shoulders. What that will look like is that we have a move like this, we have this, we have this, we have this, we get this, then, you know, we finally get the breakout move. This would probably be what I'll be looking for, but obviously we cannot say it's going to happen just exactly like this. At this point, dollar cost averaging into the market is definitely not a bad idea, except you're trading and you want to hold a long position, which is what I just drew this pattern for. But on spot position right now dollar cost averaging right now is definitely not a bad idea for Bitcoin at all. One thing I also want to point out is the fact that if this ends up being the actual bottom of the bear market and if 57,000 ends up being the bottom of the bear market and this move actually sustains, which I think it probably will, given this huge candlestick print, this is too huge to be a trap. If I'm being honest, I would be doing you a great disservice and myself a great disservice by saying that this is a trap. It does not look like a trap given the strength of the candlestick. Now, given the fact that we still have a lot of strength on the monthly time frame, for instance, we still have a lot of strength. I think breaking above this level, new all-time highs, is actually gonna happen pretty fast, and you know, probably even before the next halving, likely before the next halving, if I'm being honest. Especially given that there's a lot of room for there to be a lot of rally. I think this could be the period where you can be talking about Bitcoin doing crazy numbers like 150k, 200k, things like that in the next cycle, simply because of the fact of what is happening right now. Like, yes, it is in fact possible that the cycles may have changed, especially if this was the bottom, and perhaps Bitcoin is going to have perhaps maybe we'll start experiencing, and perhaps maybe the super cycle conversation will start coming up eventually. But let's move to Ethereum though, because Ethereum is even showing a very much more interesting picture. Now, earlier on, I had been accumulating Ethereum right around, I think 1.5. I actually posted about this in my private group. Those in my private group know that Ethereum and XRP have been my two accumulations when it comes to crypto. I've been very transparent about it. I had not been buying any Bitcoin. The only thing that I bought was Ethereum and XRP, which I was very open about. My purchase was around 1.5, 1.6 thereabouts for Ethereum. So currently we are up by about 30 to 40%, I think. Calculating from about 1.5 up onto here, yeah, it's about 40 to 50% up on that investment. So however, given this kind of move like this, especially the fact that Ethereum did not really get a rally in the last cycle, I think it's very possible that all of this liquidity here, I had talked about this a while ago, all of this liquidity here at $4,009 to $5,000, all of this liquidity here is going to get taken out very, very fast, and Ethereum might in fact get that move all the way to maybe 15k or something like that. Imagine, just look at the structure of Ethereum, right? You can see we have a low here, we have a higher low, and we are potentially establishing another higher low. Look at this, right? This is what we're looking at. All of this consolidation period only to, you know, get a move like this, something like this basically. So if Ethereum is having a move like this, we are looking at Ethereum going to like 10,000, 15,000. I know it sounds far-fetched to even say that, but maybe we should start with 7,000 or 8,000. But to say that Ethereum is not going to make that kind of move, especially if this area gets taken out, would be, you know, delusional, if I'm being honest, for lack of better word. If this level gets taken out in Ethereum, that's this level around here, if this level gets taken out, then Ethereum is going to make the run for it, for sure. That's for sure. Anyways, what do you guys think? Are you excited about what just happened with Bitcoin? Are you ready for a bull run, or do you think this is just a trap? I'd really like to hear your thoughts, guys. Leave your comments in the comment section down below.